Breaking right now, Meghan Markle's doomed Netflix deal may even see her partially finished cooking series never make it to air. Lady Colin Campbell up very shortly on this, but first let me just take you through these reports. So a Netflix insider says that the streaming service is not impressed with Polo's reception and that Meghan's cooking show might not make it. It will also mark, they say, the end of Netflix's $100 million deal with the couple. A source said there won't be another deal. There may be one-offs, but that's it. Now, a Netflix insider has also said that the Meghan show is make or break for the couple who had hoped to build a TV dynasty. So there is a lot of pressure on here. But a Californian source added to the Mail, people say Netflix are exhausted. It's so much work with her, and bluntly, the deliverable does not seem to be worth it. Another entertainment executive told the newspaper her show will have to be an enormous hit to turn around their deal and their reputations in this town. Lady Colin Campbell, goodness me, it's too late, isn't it now, Lady C? Netflix are embarrassed about what's happened with Polo. They want to pretend it almost doesn't exist. And I just see no way that a self-indulgent series of Meghan cooking for her woke mates is all of a sudden going to provide Netflix with the hit that they so desperately need. I mean, they haven't provided one drama. They haven't provided one scripted series. The only thing that worked was Harry and Meghan when they trashed on their own family. And of course, even that had far less interest and viewership than the big one that they didn't give to Netflix, but instead they gifted to Oprah Winfrey on CBS.
All right, let's start with the bombshell about Meghan's Netflix deal falling apart. We've been saying it for months. Meghan and Harry's deal with Netflix was nothing more than a cash grab based on their royal titles. But now, even Netflix is seeing the writing on the wall. Here's what's happening. Meghan was set to launch with Love, Meghan, some sort of cooking meets lifestyle show that, let's be honest, nobody asked for. No. Netflix is reconsidering the entire thing. According to industry insiders, Netflix is exhausted by Meghan's antics and the drama that follows her everywhere she goes. And bluntly, the content she's producing just isn't worth the headache. Folks, when even Hollywood, home of virtue signaling and fake activism, is backing away from you, you know you've burned through every last bit of goodwill.
Well, of course, they didn't gift it to Oprah, as you know only too well, Dan. They managed to get paid through the back door,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, we still don't know, do we? But there's that huge multi-million-dollar donation to Archwell. I wonder who that came from. So yes, good point. But you know the point that I'm making, though. Really,
Yes.
Given how much Netflix was paying them, it was an outrageous decision.
Well, it showed how naive and disloyal, treacherous, and plain plumb stupid they were. Because that's, you know, but it shows if you're a double dealer, you continue to double deal. I honestly do not see how that American Riviera Orchard show is going to be a lifesaver for them. Meghan is a very unlikable personality. Once the public gains an insight into a public figure by seeing enough of them in action, the public makes up its own mind as to whether it likes that person or not. I mean, because once you know somebody enough television, it's like knowing them personally. And Meghan has proven herself to be so unlikable that, and if she were unlikable but fascinating, that might be a different matter. For instance, Gwyneth Paltrow isn't particularly likable, but she was a big star before, and she's outrageous in a sort of hippie-ish sort of way, you know, vaginal candles and all the rest of it. And
And
but
Martha
but
Stewart's
she
a good example of that too, surely. Not necessarily likable, but people are incredibly impressed and want to emulate parts of her life.
exactly. And Martha Stewart is actually, I think, far more likable than Gwyneth Paltrow. But each of them actually has a certain glamour and a certain appeal that people want to be a part
Hmm.
of.
Totally agree.
Nobody wants to be a part of Meghan Markle's pity fest, and and you know, and the who wants to be joining the Judas Iscariot team? I honestly don't see it working unless she has a personality transplant. I just look at that photograph. The woman is so contrived. There's absolutely nothing natural about her, and it turns people off. And if she had something of interest to say, or if she were outrageous, even in a negative way, but it would be entertaining. There's nothing entertaining about her. She's a bore. She's revealed herself to be a vacuous bore. And do we seriously think that there are going to be millions of people looking at a royal oik in operation, as she says, oh, and we're now going to be doing our, oh, shall we do eggs Benedict, and eggs Benedict is very chic, and eggs Benedict is something that only the elite ever
Yes.
have. And
With
of
this
course, people think
coconut
that eggs
milk,
Benedict is
which
penny.
costs $10 a bottle.
Netflix is reportedly ready to end the Sussexes' $100 million deal after this. That's right. No more free money for content that nobody wants to watch. Why? Because at the end of the day, business is business, and Meghan and Harry have failed to deliver. Lady Colin Campbell, folks, is not holding back. And honestly, she's absolutely right. Meghan and Omid Scobie believed their own hype, thinking that their egos alone would carry them to the top. But here's the thing. You actually have to deliver something of value. And Meghan? She has produced nothing except scandal, controversy, and victim narratives. Lady C calls them ridiculous plastic creatures, and honestly, that's a perfect description. Meghan and Omid built their entire public personas on fake activism, manufactured outrage, and attacking the royal family. But when it comes to actual substance, they've got nothing. And that's why Hollywood is done with them. That's why Netflix is cutting them loose. That's why even the media that once fawned over them is now turning against them. Because people are finally realizing that Meghan and Omid don't stand for anything except self-promotion and chaos.
Yeah, but also the supply for American Riviera Orchard to be anything but entertainment. If it's going to be something like QVC that will supply goods, they need the stock. Somebody needs to invest in the tens of thousands of each item in case it sells. And if it doesn't sell, forget it. And if it's a limited edition, that is actually a way forward. That everything is a limited edition, 500 of one thing, 500 of another, or 1,000. That is a way of keeping costs down and maybe elevating the price. I shouldn't be saying this because they might not have thought of it, but that is the only way forward for a commercial enterprise of flogging jam and all the rest of it. But also, she's not prestigious. People buy Highgrove jam, they buy Buckingham Palace products because they are prestigious. There's nothing prestigious about Meghan Markle or American Riviera Orchard.
And the most extraordinary thing is that Netflix has been prepared to delay the series simply to try and allow Meghan the opportunity to get her act together and actually have the product ready for when the TV show starts. Now, I'm surprised they give a damn, because their job is to get people watching their shows, not to help Meghan Markle sell her crappy product. And of course, because she found it impossible to find a chief executive, she's having to do all of this herself. But look, Lady Colin Campbell, the whole mainstream media now has really woken up to Meghan Markle. Certainly a lot of the publications in the US that used to be slavishly loyal, the likes of Newsweek and The Cut, have turned because actually even they have been able to see the writing on the wall. But there's one man, Lady C. He's the Goebbels character, and he will go down with this ship. And you know who I'm talking about. You describe him as scabies. I call him that very odd-looking man. And I had to get your reaction to a post that he made this week, attempting to take down people like you and me and royal YouTubers as well, which is particularly interesting, by the way, because he now claims that he's retired from the royal beat, which I think is more just because no one in royal circles would dare utter a word to him. But this is what Omid Scobie posted on his X account. Requirements to become a royal commentator or expert in 2024-2025. 0 journalism experience. Be totally unhinged. An unhealthy interest in kids you don't know. Hardcore royalist. Happy to do GB News or Rude Word YouTube show for pennies. Limited vocabulary. Own a USB mic. Lady C, I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond.
Now let's talk about Omid Scobie, Meghan's longtime mouthpiece and the guy who has made a career out of smearing the royal family. His latest book, Endgame, was supposed to be his big masterpiece, the book that would expose the royals once and for all. But instead, it's completely blown up in his face. Remember the royal racist scandal? The book named names, even though Omid initially denied knowing them. But when the Dutch version of Endgame revealed the names of King Charles and Kate Middleton, Omid had nowhere to hide. Now here's what's interesting. Meghan has been completely silent on this. Why? Because Scobie is no longer useful to her. That's the pattern, folks. Meghan uses people, then throws them away when they outlive their usefulness.
No, I wouldn't condescend to take that creep seriously. First, I mean, he should be living in Castle Goring instead of me. Then maybe he could be condescending about any of us. And until such time, while he's scratching around on gay websites trying to hawk his wares and get people to go to bed with him, which he does, because I know, because a friend of mine's son who's gay sent me the photograph of him. And, also, anybody who has made it so clear that he dislikes himself to the extent that Omid Scobie does, because he's totally artificial. Like Meghan Markle, he's a study in plasticity. I mean, there's nothing natural about him, which is a great pity because he used to be quite good looking, but look at him now, he's repellent looking. And also he doesn't even lay claim to a proper identity. He claims that he's biracial, Caucasian on his father's side, Caucasian on his mother's side. Bi means two. Bi doesn't mean one half and the other half making one whole. And for him to be condescending about people who are far more successful than he is very Meghannian as well. But then he and Meghan are both very ridiculous plastic creatures who have thought that ego would get them everywhere. And it got them somewhere initially. But once you've arrived, you need to actually have sufficient substance as to stay. And neither of them has proven to be a stayer. So he doubtless thought he was going to be clever. And also, I, for instance, am not a journalist. I've never been a journalist. And so I certainly didn't need journalistic skill. And also, what is a USB thing? He says something about it. What is that?
Oh yeah, it's like the cord that you plug your microphone into your computer with, or your charger, your phone charger.
What does that have to do with anything? I'm sure I'm very untechnological, so I'm missing this. Can you explain it to me so we can see what the total
He's being
honesty
an
is?
absolute
No?
snob, and he's trying to do down citizen journalists and make the point that, oh, any old person, be it, one of our favourites like P. Dina, or according to Taz, or Brittany from the Royal News Network, or Steph the alternate, oh, how terrible that ordinary people can plug in a microphone now. And the thing is, he's part of this snobby elite, isn't he? Or at least he wants to be part of that snobby elite that doesn't understand that actually journalism and the media is completely changing. We are the media now. You are the media now. You don't have to listen to some sort of mainstream guff. You can actually go direct to the source. And journalism, as you say, is no longer limited to people who are able to describe themselves as journalists because they work for the BBC. So it's just snobbery. In fact, he's just trying to do snobbery.
Can I make a point, Dan?
Please.
Can I make a point?
Just like she did with her own father, sister, first husband, staff at Buckingham Palace, and now Omid Scobie. For years, the media has propped up Meghan and Harry, treating them like martyrs who escaped the cruel royal family. But now, the industry sees them for what they really are, a liability. And let's not forget, their entire appeal was based on being royals. But when you spend years attacking the very institution that made you famous, don't be surprised when people stop caring about you.
First of all, he has no concept, as obviously do most journalists who are in the mainstream media. Journalism is not supposed to be about elitism. Journalists have traditionally been ordinary people who were not members of the elite, who were going to call out the elite when the elite failed to behave properly. So that has always been the function of true journalists. Also, Omid Scobie is not a member of any elite. He's not from any sort of eminent background. He's basically a jobbing journalist who prostituted himself so that he could suck up to that ghastly creature Meghan Markle, because the both of them had a lot in common plastic-wise. And it's a joke that he would call out, because journalists, whether they are on YouTube, Substack, or even in the mainstream media, they only are as successful as their content. And Omid Scobie is the perfect example of somebody who has turned out to be a failure, because he was purveying false goods to the public and making people think that it was something it wasn't. And he has worked his way into failure. And all the good YouTubers, like according to Taz, for instance, they know their stuff. I mean, even Kinsey Schofield, she knows her stuff. These are not people to be denigrated. They are people to be respected. Totally. And had he known his stuff, instead of being Joseph Goebbels to Meghan Markle's Adolfine Hitler, he would still be earning good money, instead of which he's had to retire because he's covered in egg by having shown himself to have been nothing but a propagandist. So I think he has a hell of a nerve snaring at people who are his superiors. He is an inferior being.
Meghan and Harry thought they could take down the monarchy and become Hollywood superstars. But the truth is, they're just two grifters who overplayed their hand. Now, they're facing the consequences. Folks, this is the beginning of the end for the Meghan and Harry brand. Their credibility is shattered, their industry support is vanishing, and the public is moving on. This is what happens when entitlement, hypocrisy, and deception catch up with you. You can fool people for a while, but eventually the truth wins. So what do you think, patriots? Is Meghan's Netflix career officially over? Is Omid Scobie finished? And what does this mean for the future of Harry and Meghan's brand? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.